Make me host, please.
यस सर, आपको को पोस्ट किया है।
ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है। कंपनी में देना पड़ेगा।
वो तो बहुत रश है। वो तो हरियाणा बॉर्डर जो पड़ते हैं उस पर भी बहुत रश रहता है ना उसमें। हाँ।
155 लोगों ने ज्वाइन कर रखा।
अरे यार उसको भी क्या
इसके भी कपिल देना, कपिल को फोन।
All right. What is the position? We have only 171. But yes, we will do that. I hope you all had a good holiday season. Good evening. In the meanwhile, by the time other people join, I would request you all to check the spreadsheet. Please, who is speaking? Mute yourself, someone who is talking. So my suggestion is, please switch on your videos. My suggestion is, please look up this sheet. You all have the link. Do you need the link of that sheet again? Spreadsheet of traditional knowledge that you had, or they were all expected to fill up. Many of you have put some interesting information. Some of it is general, but some is very interesting. So can you look it up before we start in a few minutes? Do you have the link, or should I give you the link again?
So can you please provide the link once again?
Rageshri is there. Rageshri, are you there? Let me see. I'll send it to you. So, yeah.
कौन? अरे यार फिर अब कैसे होगा?
म्यूट करो। कौन बोल रहा है? म्यूट करो बच्चे।
मैं एक बार और ट्राई करता हूँ।
म्यूट करो। कौन बोल रहा है? हाँ भाई, ट्राई करो, उसमें कोई बुराई बात नहीं है, लेकिन म्यूट करके ट्राई करो। आई एम पुटिंग द लिंक हियर। All right, Dev Ranjan, I can understand if you don't have. So here is the link on the chat I have just put. Try open it. Just open it. Have you opened it? This is the one that I'm referring to.
रागी ये एक्सेस क्यों नहीं कर पा रहे एक बार देखो ना
नहीं, क्यों नहीं हो रहा है?
क्या मैम?
ये बोल रहा ये
सर
स्टूडेंट्स
एक्सेस
एक्सेस
मांग
नहीं
रहा
कर पा
है।
रहे
Access
नहीं,
मांग
इतने रिस्पॉन्सेस तो आए हैं।
नहीं रागेश्वरी, this file has
हाँ।
to be, it should be made open for sharing. क्यों ये शेयर नहीं हो रहा है
मतलब वो
ना?
एडिटेबल हो पाए ऐसा?
अरे
हाँ।
भाई, आप इसको restrict मैं change कर रहा हूँ. I'm just changing.
ठीक है।
Okay, now everybody can open that link. I have made it change the restriction. Anyone with the link can open it. But don't change anything. You can put your comments in the right and last column, but don't change anything. Can you open it now? Can you open it?
Yes.
can only view they cannot change anything
No, but they can.
नहीं यहाँ पे जो आपने एक्सेस दिया है वरना
ठीक है।
वहाँ व्यूअर से एडिटर करना पड़ेगा आपको बट इट्स
अच्छा,
बेटर लाइक दिस
अच्छा, ठीक है. So we will start the session. We have how many people? 271. Not a good number compared to what we had in the beginning, around 500 or so. Naturally, people are joining.
क्लास किसी नहीं है।
हाँ,
हाँ, बेकार हो सकता है।
कौन बोल रहा है? बच्चे म्यूट कर लो अपने को, because I can't see your name here when you speak. I have a speaker view. Speaker view I will know, but otherwise better I keep the gallery view. All right, so can you switch on your videos, all of you, for a few minutes before we start? I'll just check. Abha, are you able to switch on? Suresh, Gauri,
Yes.
Subhash, Shiva Krishna, Bhanu, can you do that? Pradeep, Suresh, Diksha. Maitri, Jadumoni, Shruti.
Sir, it is again asking for access for editing.
Editing, you don't have to edit it. Just read it and pick
Okay.
up the ones that you wish to comment on. And your comment, you can note down, and then when we open the discussion, you can give your comment. Just note down the name of the student and the idea or the
Okay,
practice.
okay.
Just
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So we will start with the session. You can do that later. Everybody can see the screen?
Yes, sir.
yes
All right. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Yes,
So what are we going to discuss? Our subject today is whether traditional knowledge can deliver affordable and sustainable solutions. Now, we all know that there are certain kinds of knowledge and practices which are applicable universally. I mentioned probably earlier, I will mention it again. Ginger extract and honey, all around the world, people have used it to get relief from the cough. It is not that it has diffused from India to all over. People have independently discovered in different parts of the world the properties of this. So some practices are such that have emerged simultaneously in different parts of the world. Use of garlic oil or garlic for antibacterial or anti-infectious is well known. So a lot of practices emerge and diffuse simultaneously in different parts of the world. But certain practices diffuse or emerge in specific location. The location is specific knowledge. Sometimes is restricted among individuals, sometimes in the communities, and sometimes it is available openly. We will look at the dynamics of that in a minute and see how scholars, as we discussed earlier, sometimes don't do justice to this knowledge system, and we'll try to find out how can we do that. So what are the tension points? One traditional tension point is that many traditional knowledge holders are economically poor. The question that arises is, should they remain poor because they are generous? They share their knowledge openly. I may charge consultancy for my time or my lecture, but they don't. They give their time freely to us. Is that the reason? Because their ethics is superior, therefore they remain poor. We are more commercially minded, capitalistic in our nature, therefore we become rich. That question has to be kept in mind so that we can discuss this issue in a manner that we become more fair and symmetrical. Sometimes, many times people don't realize that in our current generation, more knowledge is getting lost that was ever lost in the entire human history. And the reason is very obvious, that the intergenerational link is becoming weaker. Link between grandparents and grandchildren is becoming weak. Families are becoming nuclear. The children have moved to cities. Grandparents might sometimes live in the villages or in the smaller towns or wherever you come from, and you don't visit them very often. So you maybe in a year you may go to meet them once or twice or thrice. And you have, and you already have very small. So rate at which this knowledge is getting lost irreversibly. That means we will not be able to recover it when our grandparents are gone. So what do we do? What process we should follow? And do we need to give importance to all kinds of knowledge? No. One of you mentioned that I am modern-minded, I am science-minded. I don't want to give importance to traditional knowledge. Not all traditional knowledge is not superstitious. Some of it may be. But superstition can arise even in the modern knowledge. Other day, there was a meeting at Indians of Science, and there was a Professor Shubha Tole from TIFR talking about science and society. And in response to one of our comments, I said, look, do you remember that when Kalpakkam nuclear project became critical, scientists had put a swastik on the reactor to have the blessings of the god for safety of the reactor. Now, this is superstition, isn't it? So superstition is not just a characteristic of traditional knowledge holder. Even we, many times we say touch wood. What is touch wood? Superstition. So superstition is bad, no matter whether we have it or traditional knowledge holders have it. But not all traditional knowledge need to be considered as superstitious. That's all I'm trying to say. This is, as a scientific mind, as a rational mind, we ought not to believe in certain things. But for peace of mind, many of us have our own deities to believe in, or rituals, or practices, whatever. We will not get into that. The other question that we need to ask is, why will young people sustain it? Of the traditional knowledge holder, sustain if the elders remain poor? Now, that question we should ask. Many times, young people have seen that our parents shared their knowledge freely, and they did not. Can you switch off your phone, please? I request everybody to switch off their audio when they are talking. It creates disturbance, disturb the flow, not useful. And you all know that you can do it. So check your mic before you speak a word. Check your mic before you switch it off, and then speak. Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
Can we all agree with that? Thank you. Thank you. Please. Was that why should young people sustain this knowledge if their elders remain poor? And that's a very valid question. We need to really ask ourselves, how can we create incentives for young people to develop such knowledge which is functionally valid and which is crucial for future? Some of the genes from the plants or animals or fishes of traditional biodiversity may be critical for future safety of civilization, or some of the knowledge may provide clues for future survival, and therefore we need to look at that. Climate change, I mean, there could be in such cases, this knowledge can be very crucial for future conservation of opportunities. So I would say that try if we can look at explore similarly public domain knowledge. Now what happens is, let us say I as a scholar or you as a scholar go to a community and document their knowledge, publish a paper. That community knowledge now has become public domain knowledge. It has become a prior art. It has become part of open access literature. Once it becomes open access literature, you obviously cannot have any intellectual property right protection. So what have we done? We have eroded their knowledge rights, often without their consent. Similarly, the knowledge could be of some individual healers, and we can bring it into public domain. Now, there is a paradox here. If we don't bring in public domain, I and you will not come to know of it. But if we bring in public domain without any precaution, then people will lose their right. So what should we do? So for example, this spreadsheet that you have shared. In this spreadsheet, there are some practices. One of the interesting practices in the beginning itself was mentioned that sweets should be taken before food and not after. You will agree 90% of us, at least I am including myself, most of us take sweet at the end of the dinner. But that doesn't help in digestion. Whereas if you eat in the beginning, and that's what I hope the person will herself mention in the class, it helps in digestion. It releases certain juices, the gastric juices better. Now, this is counterintuitive. It is contrary to the popular belief. Such knowledge, if it is scientifically valid, which it seems to be from the literature that I saw, we need to share that widely. And we can give due credit that, I think her name is Priya Chauhan, or I may be wrong, but it is just on the top of the spreadsheet. We will check. Let me see, what's the name? Priya Chauhan, yes. Now, MTech. Priya, are you there? Priya, are you there? No, she's not there. All right. So if these knowledge domains intersect, then obviously they create paradoxes, they create dilemma. Now let us look at one more paradox, which is between knowledge, awareness of the knowledge, and practice. So knowledge can be of individual, community, public. Practice can be individual, community, public, which means an individual has the knowledge, and that knowledge remains with the individual, In practice, then only one person knows it, and you have to go to that person for getting benefit. But that knowledge, if it is practiced widely, becomes community knowledge eventually, or it can come in public. Now, please switch off the challenge. Are you going to ask a question? Then you can raise a hand. Then I'll recognize you. You want to ask a question or come make a comment? Somebody here? All right. So the question that arises here is that many people may know something, this plant can be used for this purpose, but they may not have the capability to implement it. They may not be able to know how to use it. They may not know how to dose it, how much of this extract should be given for what kind of condition. So if they do not know the relationship between or they cannot diagnose the condition and therefore tailor the solution with it, then this problem will arise, and that needs to be solved. Now we come to the next challenge, and that challenge is that contemporary improvement in traditional knowledge, and how do we assign the rights to healers? Recently, we have developed, and Anamika can explain. Anima, would you like to explain about that oil, how the communities in Baramulla shared their knowledge, how then, Anamika, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there. Just give me 2 minutes. You can
Ah.
continue for 2 minutes. I'll just.
All right. So she would explain or maybe show the picture of that there were communities in Baramulla, Jammu Kashmir. Different communities knew different ingredients and their uses. These were combined together. Then LM College of Pharmacy, Dr. Mamta and her students did the extraction and assigned the different proportions to these components to make them a proper oil and a balm for pain. And then several of us, myself included, for my pain in my back and my right leg, I used it. Her mother used it. I gave it to my colleague, his father. He is using it. And many people used it and have reported good relief. Now, what should be done? When this product goes to market with a startup, little Himalayan company, now this startup has a duty not only to acknowledge the committees as it would do in the pamphlet and mention the committee location or committee name on the label, and then if benefits come, they will be shared with the committee. So there are three kinds of benefits. One is the material benefit. That means they will get good price for the collection of the ingredient. Second, they will get a small amount for their individual as well as collective needs. Third, they will get a small portion for conservation of biodiversity. So there are three shares, one for themselves, one for the community, and one for the nature. Now, this is the share which they will get from the profit that will accrue from the sale of this after deducting all the cost of supply chain, storage, wastage, all of that, and the labor of the people who will be involved in the supply chain. At the same time, the benefit also is recognition. So people will say, oh, from Baramulla, we could get an oil which was so good. We have tried so many other oils in the market. They were not as effective. So the pride, the self-respect can go up. The third is inspirational benefit. If this community could get this and get recognition and their names are in the pamphlet or on the website, then maybe we can also do the same thing. Maybe our knowledge is also precious. So more people come to know of this, the more acknowledgement, more self-respect will go up. And third benefit, therefore, of inspirational value will also be arising. So we have already looked at the second point. I will leave that.
Sir, should I just do
Yeah,
a
go
small?
ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. Should I stop the sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
and I.
Yes.
So this is the oil and the wax that my colleague Sapna made with the help of a complete batch of students from LM College, and she was guided by Dr. Mamta Shah, Professor Mamta Shah. She is, of course, renowned and very experienced. What we did is we had about 600 practices from Baramulla. Okay. Now, different people had chosen, like, had mentioned different ingredients or different plant materials that they use for various ailments. And then we screen them for the functions. And then after we said, okay, this is the function, suppose because we were thinking of pain as one of the initial year because we had a lot of practice with that. And then the second thing that we chose, we filtered out was that if the plant materials are abundantly available or not. Because if something is very effective, but it is endangered or it is in the red data book, then it is not, it will do more, like it will harm the environment more than anything else. So we did a selection of plants which were abundantly available, and we ran a couple of tests to see which kind of compound groups are there and if there is something that can be used. So first one is Terataxum, which is a dandelion, which is very commonly found in people. And then it is Cotula. Cotula, I think C will be one R. Cotula, and then Fumaria. These are all weeds. And Methi. Methi, you all know. Then, just hold on. After that, we had to decide on the dosage and the formulation. And these were the different bases, like oil. For the oil, we use different oils. For pain, quick pain relief. And the base was generally is just paraffin wax and beeswax anyway. So we did what are the major phytoconstituents, and we did some studies. This is just a small capsule of all the studies because we made this pitch for a potential all this basic search along with some tests for toxicity and other things. Like it should not harm you even if it doesn't help you. And this knowledge is pooled from 12 different community members in different villages of Baramulla. So this is not one person who has done it. Or the whole combination is professor will share an Excel sheet of the practices that we have collected from there. So we have practices for pain, for diarrhea, for stomachache, for respiratory disorders. There are like many things, snake bite and other things that are there. And this is the one that we chose. We also made a scrub and a face cream. The scrub is, of course, has come out very well, and hopefully we'll be able to launch in some time. So the point was that community knowledge, and we have this one did not have the photo of the label, but we in the website, everything with the name of the innovator or the knowledge providers will be there. And as a practice, Honeybee Network, all our institutions, we have never filed patents in the name of our colleagues. It is always in the name of community. And if it is a community knowledge, if the knowledge is more than one or two people, then what happens? It becomes a community knowledge, and the community has to select a representative who will give us the power of attorney on behalf of them. So it has to be, we cannot select the person who will be the representative of the community. The community has to decide because they have their own traditional ways. We don't want to disturb anything. उनकी जो मान्यता है वो हम लोग कहीं पे भी काम करें, हमें उसको we should respect. हमें उसको स्वीकारना भी होगा और उसको इज्जत भी देनी होगी. And thankfully this balm is now at least for 5 studies that we have done, it has been very effective. And we are hopeful that in 10-15 days more, we will get at least 10 more you can say results. So we have made also teas,
User trials.
tea that you drink. For example, what happens when we get something from the Northeast. So it is sumac tea. Sumac is Rus coronaria, RHUS. And it is generally, people drink it like tea. If in Northeast, milk tea is not that much preferred. They have black tea. So sumac is one of them. And we got this powdered one and we tried to sell it. People were not accepting it because they don't know what it is. आप और मैं थोड़ा बहुत चलो साइंस जानते हैं या बॉटनिकल नेम जानते हैं, we can still understand. But people, they are not aware of those things. Then I was going through the literature and it has whole lots of health benefits. If you just write sumac Nagaland benefits and you see in Google Scholar, there are so many studies that have been done, including it protects the DNAs from any damage. It is anti-cancer for female, basically breast cancer ke liye it is very effective, like things like that, like 70 to 80% effective. And we found that, so we felt that we should take this to the people for their general health, and it's not very costly also. So what we did, we had to adjust the taste so that people will accept this. So my colleague who was selling it, he said, no, I cannot sell this. You give me stones, I will sell it, but I cannot sell this. Okay. So what we did, we took some ajwain, we took some black pepper, salt and other things to give it a twist. And this morning, everybody liked it. So the thing is that people may not accept the things, even they are good for your health. We had tried, putting the links and telling them, okay, this is like anti-cancer, this is like anti-diabetic, it protects your heart. So people didn't understand. क्योंकि उनको मजा तो टेस्ट में था. और वो मुझे कहते हैं कि ये जो 1.5 इंच का जीभ है ना, वो आपके हेल्थ के सबसे is the bottleneck. For me also, I like good food. Professor will say he doesn't mind having any kind of food, but I need good food. So and this time working with the tea, it helped us to gain acceptability, because it is very, this thing is, sumac is otherwise tartar, like sour. It has a lot of vitamin C and A also, right? So as science people, what we need to do is we have to bring science to the people. Now you'll say, why is this important? Because that is a part of our job. You are a scientist. While working in the labs, you become good scientists, but to become great scientists, you'll have to have people who accept your science, who reap the benefits of your science. And that's why we are there in this program for societal impact, isn't it? So this is just a small example. We did a few more formulations, and I'll share the sheet with you. We have from Sikkim and Nagaland also, in case any one of you will like to take them forward in your lab. Please feel free to do so with acknowledging the community. Now, the benefit sharing formula here, apart from getting a major chunk back to the community, we have a share for the environment. Because what the idea is, how can we conserve by consuming? When you consume right things, you may be more inclined towards conservation. So part of the fund goes, the idea is, we'll go back to conserving part of the land from which the plant material has been taken. So sir, I will end it here and you may continue.
Already some tension Anamika has mentioned. She mentioned about authorship, that patents are in the name of the committee and not ourselves, no matter how much value we may add. While publishing research papers, you can publish jointly with them, but patent will always be in the name of the committee holders. Prior informed consent, very important. We should take their consent before we do anything. Asymmetry, of course, is there because we have scientific knowledge. They may not have, but they have functional knowledge. They know how to preserve it, how to store it, how to process it. And that knowledge is no less important than the scientific knowledge. Sharing of benefits, incentivizing knowledge holders, etc. Apart from this, there are two more tensions. One is, of course, conservation. So she mentioned about why we would like some resources to be contributed toward conservation of biodiversity, and how to incentivize scientists so that they give TK holders and work with them, collaborate with them, and treat them as peers. Just because that person may be illiterate or semi-literate doesn't mean that we should give them less respect. Now, I'll give you a story. I briefly mentioned it before, but today we'll go into more detail and understand how, Professor Tu, you got Nobel Prize for malarial drug. And I'm sure you all know which drug I'm referring to. Which is this drug? Which professor got Nobel Prize for? Anybody?
Artemisinin.
Artemisinin. Right. Now, do you know the story? Does anybody know the story, how it was discovered? Any one of you? I will hold on, because if you know and you tell, that will be better. This is the only Nobel Prize that I can remember, which is for a discovery based on traditional knowledge.
It is discovered by chance, sir.
No, let me explain to you how it happened. So first of all, you should know that she got a Nobel Prize without being a medical practitioner. She did her graduation in pharmacology. She was not a professor. She did not have PhD, and yet she could do work along with her colleagues of an extraordinary nature. So it all begins with her interest in the knowledge. What happened was Mao Zedong, when Chairman Mao Zedong of China was requested by Vietnam during the time when Vietnam War was going on in 1969, that malaria is affecting the soldiers in a big way. Can you find a solution for malaria? And it was time of turmoil in China. Cultural revolution was taking place. A lot of other things were being upside down. But he asked, and she asked her, she was reputed as a scientist, to take up this challenge. And it was called 523, Project 523. And she got together a few hundred scientists as a member of the team to look at this. Now, the challenge was which plant to use. So she looked at a database of about 2,000 herbal remedies, and Artemisia annua was one of the plants which was reported to be useful for fevers. Malaria word was not used in the ancient literature, but certain fevers were used. So she shortlisted that, and then the extract was quite toxic, and therefore she had to remove certain compounds to make it tolerable. And you know what? When she developed, she wanted to be sure that it is safe. She tried it on herself. It is an amazing story how she contributed to this success. So what happened was that when this problem was discovered, and two went to the communities where this fever was found to be severe in southern coast, where this problem has been there. And she tried to see how children used to die very quickly when they had this fever. She also saw the hardship, and therefore she did not just rely on the dictate. She wanted to experience the pain of the people for whom she was developing a solution. This is an important lesson. How do you bring energy inside you to do things that take away your fatigue, take away your tiredness, and propel you to try harder and harder and harder and harder? That energy comes from some Vedana, as we discussed earlier. When you experience the pain of those children who are dying or the parents of the children, you get that feeling, I must do something for them. And she got that feeling. So she found this plant in the ancient text. And this was a text where this plant, wormwood, which is called, was Chinese ginkgo, was being used to treat a fever similar to malaria. And results were quite mixed. Now the problem comes, and this is a very important problem. The medicine, when it was given to the patients, fever will come down and sometimes it will go up again. And she didn't know why this drug was not stable in the body. This was perplexing her and her team. Then she found, and that's very interesting, how sometimes when we design protocol of our research, we take certain methods of extraction as given, and as a habit we use those methods. One of these methods, which we often use as a habit, is we take a plant and extract it in water, hot water, boiling water or hot water. We assume that hot water will extract more useful plants. So she found a manuscript which was 700 years old, where, as against the other one, which was more than 2,000 years old, she found that in the 700-year-old manuscript, it was mentioned that they soaked it in the water and then took the water. She was trying boiled water extract. The moment she used the cold water extract, problem was solved. The compound became stable and the fever, the effect of the medicine did not go down immediately. So it remained in the body for the time period and then controlled the fever. So this knowledge, which had been there in the text, if she had not looked at that and had only gone by the scientific method, maybe it would have taken longer, or maybe not. The solution may not have been found. So the moral of the story is that a person who never went abroad, who had no PhD, who had no medical science background, could help in guiding a research which led to this discovery, relying on the ancient sources of knowledge plus a few 100-year-old knowledge, blended it together, and did not have so much confidence in her method that she wouldn't listen to any other choice or would not pay attention. Any comment here before we proceed to the next example? Any one of you feel? CDRI has also done a lot of work on this plant. Why did we miss the Nobel Prize? Any guess? Any guess? Wild guess? You see, when you find a problem and you want to solve it, solution of the problem requires little more orientation towards the people who use it. Maybe, I'm just guessing it, maybe our scholars did a lot of good lab work, published a lot of scientific papers, and they did, in fact, it is on record, but they didn't probably spend as much time as to engage pharmacologists, pharmacognostic, and then work with them to work out the dosage, work out the stable form of the compound, which is what she did, because she wanted to solve a problem. She wasn't interested in just research. Her interest was in solving problem. And mind you, when she got Nobel Prize, she was living in an obscure small house. She had got no recognition for this work. When she was interviewed, she said, I didn't do it for fame or money. I did my job because this was a national challenge. I was chosen by, at that time, the government to solve this problem. And I'm happy that I did. At this age, she was 84 when she got this Nobel Prize. She said, at this age, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is that I could do something. And later on, Chinese media, of course, wrote about her story and so on. But she had remained unsung hero of our country and the world for that matter, despite such a wonderful discovery that she had made. So it is important that when we look at a problem, we don't restrict ourselves to elucidating the nature of the problem and work within our discipline. Solution requires multidisciplinary approach, and that's where she could find success. Now let's look at another example. And I'm sure some of you know more examples. Here is a team of scientists from National University of Singapore. And look at what things they are working on. They're working on apple peel for water purification. They are working on corn fiber and laffa peel for extraction of pollutants from water. They're working on fruit peel as efficient renewable adsorbent for removal of dissolved heavy metals and dyes from water. And these are papers published in ACS journals. Not just a small papers, or small journals, but some of the very reputed journals. So you can work on ordinary materials, you can solve extraordinary problems, and you can publish in extraordinary journals. There is no tension between working on materials of common people and using common knowledge and adding value and developing good, blending it with good science, something that we will discuss tomorrow. What are the protocols? And I would like you to bring some examples. Some of you should present tomorrow examples of how blending this science in various disciplines, material science, engineering, don't have to restrict to plants, any discipline, how blending has generated solutions that could not have got otherwise. So this is another example where we had done. Now last year there were some students who brought about how cashew oil, when cashew is processed, was used for wound healing. And then we did the literature review and we found that CNSL has innumerable application for polymer-based industries such as friction lining, paint, varnishes, laminating resin, etc., etc., etc. But none of it has been developed so far. Papers have been published, but we have not been able to get products. And this is often going waste or used. Similarly, another student from NCL had talked about gum for wound healing. Today, one of you mentioned about mango leaves for tooth, as a toothbrush, tooth cleaning. Is that a student here in the class? About mango leaf? Hello? Shall I take the name of that student? Are you there? Yeah, here it is. Hello. So Kartik Nath from CSIR NIST. Are you there? Kartik, are you there in the class? Anybody from NIST here who can call him?
Yes, sir.
She's Kartik Nath. Kritika Nath, I'm sorry. Kritika Nath, sorry. Kritika, are you there? Anyway, if she's not, then the point was valid that an ordinary leaf, none of us have realized the value of the fact that it has mangiferin, which has antibacterial property, as she has written, and it could lead to a good product, and mango leaves are plentiful available. Now, the subject of the research would be, we have to look at leaves of different kinds of mango plants. We'll have to look at leaves of different ages. We'll have to look at the leaf of different life cycle, different months of the plant, different places in the plant, on the top, on the middle, on the bottom, old, young, new leaves. All of this will have to be seen to find out how do we optimize the best possible source of mangiferin, which will then be used for making a paste out of it. This is the kind of research that is not being done. We leave it at that. We leave it at mango leaf. Mango leaf is not uniform leaf. These are old and new leaves which have more sunlight versus the leaves which are under shade. Then thirdly, the leaves which are on the northeast side or the southwest side, depending upon how much light they receive in the day. All of these factors will influence. And then whether leaves in the spring, when the new leaves come out, will have more content, or during the senescence period in October, November, when the leaves fall, or we don't know. We have not looked at this issue. So this knowledge will remain where it is without producing value-added product if we don't give full justice to this. I hope Kritika will look at this issue a little more carefully and see whether she can throw some light on it. I'll be very happy if she did it. So what I'm trying to say that it will be useful, before I go to the next part, I want to stop here for a minute and receive your comments and questions. Do you think, are we on the right track? Is this what is a way forward for some of the problems? I'm not saying all problems. There are problems which communities have no clue about. No Indian farmer ever wanted a dwarf wheat because they didn't know that a dwarf wheat existed. They had never seen it. So it was entirely a scientist-driven experimentation which led to green revolution. So I'm not saying that people always will have knowledge which can lead to all the transformation in our society. Some transformations can be achieved by using their knowledge as a lead, some. But I'm not saying that always in every case they will have the idea about how to solve a problem. No, definitely not. So it has to be case-to-case basis. We'll have to see which knowledge can lend itself to value addition, and we will discuss that tomorrow, of course, in detail. But anybody has any comment on so far what we have discussed and whether this case is valid enough? Is there an argument for studying this knowledge system? And if so, do you think that from what you have done already, some of you have done very well? I mean, it is true that we dismiss this knowledge offhand just because it looks so simple? Is it true?
No, sir. Sir, I have a question regarding.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go
Yeah,
ahead,
please,
go ahead.
go ahead. I will
Go ahead.
give an example in a while.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sir, you mentioned that all traditional knowledge are not superstitious. So we need to verify that its scientific basis. So how to do this? Because different people have different opinions regarding traditional knowledge or traditional practices. So we need to clearly distinguish between traditional knowledge and practice, and the other way is the traditional beliefs or the religious beliefs like that. So these two are completely different things.
Correct. So what are the ways in which we can do that? It's a good question, Abdul. One way is that we look at the pervasiveness, but it is not a sufficient condition. It's not even necessary condition that they should be widely available, but it is one of the possibilities that many people may be using that solution, and therefore it might seem to be useful. It may be not useful, but it may seem to be useful. Number one. Secondly, we will try to see whether people use it differently. That means somebody uses, let us say, leaf put in the water. My wife used to use soaked leaf, mango leaf soaked in the water. She will drink. Nikhil, please switch off. Nikhil, you are speaking. Yes, good. Thank you. So second, Abdul, is that when my wife used to drink the water of mango leaves soaked in the night because it helped her to manage sugar content, diabetes. Now, we read literature and we found it was reported. And we thought there was no harm in trying it out, and therefore we tried it. So second thing is that we look at literature and see whether anybody has done any study and found validity. If so, then we take it to the next level of understanding. Third is we can look at a contrary result. Is it possible that some people are using it for just the opposite purpose? And if that is the case, then we need to be careful. I'll give an example. The other day, our colleague mentioned from Sikkim that some people are trying to use the water from marigold flowers. Now, literature says that it is toxic, it can cause diarrhea and so on. So I was very keen to know as to what conditions do people use it in such a way that they do not have these symptoms which are reported in literature, several papers about toxic effect of the flowers for internal application. Externally, it is all right for wound and whatever. So therefore, if there is a contradictory evidence available, we should be very careful before we go forward and try to eliminate any possibility of either inadequate recording of the data or insufficient detail or some particular process that was important for making that thing work, and we have missed that process and we just wrote water of flower, and then we may cause problem if we are not careful enough. So it is important to see literature. It is important to see contradictory practices. It is important to see how widely it is used. And it is important to see from intuitively whether people have used it once or there is a repeated use. Because anecdotal, whether it is anecdotal or it has been based on contemporary use, many times it is anecdotal. I have heard it from my father, but I have not done it myself. Then we will put less reliance on that knowledge. Only after fulfilling some conditions of this knowledge shall we go for experimentation. If we find that plant material is available abundantly, and Baswaraj, can you switch off, please? Yeah. So then this will become more widely available. Yes, Anamika, you were saying something?
Yes, sir. So how simple, जो नुस्खे बोलते हैं ना, नुस्खे, दादी माँ के नुस्खे, whatever, simple traditional knowledge becomes a product. All of you must have heard about Mama Earth, right? Mama Earth.
Yes.
तो ये पेड़ भी उगाते हैं टाइप से, जो जिसका ऐड आता है.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, what was the first formulation of Mama Earth which actually made them think about making a company? Anybody? The first product was हींग का पानी जो नाभि में लगाते हैं. What they did was just a value addition. They made it into a roll-on. So it became very handy for mothers to carry wherever they went. And that was the first product and it was widely accepted. So,
Otherwise, you have to rub the rubbers. I mean, mix it with the
हाँ,
water.
जो नाभि में कहते हैं ना पेट में दर्द होता है बच्चों का, तो हींग का पानी उनका पहला प्रोडक्ट था, जो कोई प्रोप्राइटरी नॉलेज नहीं है.
Correct. Correct.
ठीक है, पहला. दूसरी बात, now how traditional beliefs or practices transition into science. So I met this farmer from Indonesia, Kumar, in Italy, and he did some experiment. He said he used half-boiled rice and planted the rice plant into it before planting it into the soil. And it provided drought resistance. I asked him why and how did he get the idea. He said that he had seen this in the Hindu temples. He's a Muslim. So in the Hindu temples, they seed rice like that. And in fact, there's a ritual before this rice plantation happens. The Hindi community do it in a small, like there's a ritual karte. It's not like a big, large scale farming that they're doing. Just as a ritual, they will boil rice and put the saplings into it and then put it into the soil. The first plant that has to be planted in the soil is that plant. And he was intrigued, why do they do it year after year every time? And he also noticed that these plants are more or less very sturdy. He did the same experiment. He replicated with different degrees of boiling and different kinds of rice. And he found that the rice as such did not make a difference, but the amount of boiling, like if it is super soft, it is semi-soft, that made more of a difference. And so later, somebody picked it up and did a study and found that this rice becomes a substrate for a certain kind of fungi that helps the plants to tide over the drought period. So what it takes is a little more keen observation. Secondly, when you don't have a way out, you try everything low cost. Third, what professor says that when it doesn't cost much to try, you should try. When the cost of failure is low, you should always try. Fourth is not just, what we do after becoming scientists or studying much. We tend to negate many of the things. Like normal से एक negative approach आ जाता है. We become very pessimistic. हाँ ये होता होगा, ये नहीं होता है, यार क्या बात कर रहे हो? अच्छा try करके देख लो. So from नहीं होता है या नहीं होगा to try करके देख लो, and then most of the beliefs, we will know if they are beliefs or they are actual science. And if there are like 409 people here, we take one such example, 400 experiments are done. And at least in the next class, you will have 400 less, non-science things, or maybe more 400 practices which are scientifically validated. We should not wait for others to do it. So that is, sir, 2 examples that I had. And Komar just a school graduate. He's not even studied. He's not studied graduation. He worked as an illegal immigrant labor in Cambodia and certain other countries. He just goes on. He left his job, of course, and he just goes on experimenting and exploring. So maybe a little bit of exploring and it is a good thing.
Good, very good.
They say,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Somebody was making a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
As Madam is saying, the similar lines, this Gyano Veda has been established. If I am right about the story, then they are having one child, and that child was getting a good resistance of all the fever allopathic drugs. So they were not in a position to figure it out which allopathic drug will suit that kid. And so they went into the Ayurvedic or the traditional knowledge, and somehow they figured it out one medicine which was very suitable for that kid. And from there they started digging it up, and now they have a different company which is called as Gyano Veda. That is completely based on this our traditional knowledge only, and they are now making the good benefit out of it. So it's a
Very
similar.
interesting. Yeah, Monica, that's very interesting. So what did it inspire you to try a little more about the knowledge of your elders? Has it made any difference to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, whatever right now we are doing in science, I think the similar thing. If we dig it down more, then sometimes we get all the unconventional things as well.
What are you working on, Monica? What is your background? What is your research background?
So I am on the total synthesis and the medicinal chemistry synthesis part, basically, in the NCL as well as IICT, both the things. And the thing is, as you explore, so in my case as well, the thing happened in such a way that I was working on one total synthesis. That was the molecule which was isolated from a bacteria, and it was used for the treatment of diabetes. But then very interestingly, what I observed is I got one intermediate. That intermediate I explored in material. Now the entirely the thing is I am working in the total synthesis area, but now I am exploring that intermediate in the piezoelectric material.
Oh my God, completely different direction.
This will go into my thesis.
But how did this idea come? How did this idea come that this material could be piezoelectric? It's a very, very wide flight of imagination. How did it happen?
Yeah, so what happened is during the synthesis itself, I got one diol. That diol was a crystal compound. And that diol was a distereomeric diol, and I could not separate it. I struggled a lot to separate it under normal column chromatography. The thing was, if it is distereomer, you can separate it under the column chromatography, but I was not able to do that. So we got it separated through HPLC. And I was thinking that what could be the other way? Like if it is distereomer, then why we have to go for this crystal? Like why we have to go for this HPLC kind of thing? Why can't we separate? So while digging up the literature, I understood that they crystallized in the different fashion. So idea started from here. Then I went into the crystal room. There was one microscope, and I observed just 2 crystals of this separated diol. And then I did the XRD of it. And as it was the fact that they will crystallize in 2 different phases, like two different crystal lattice. So one crystallized in, one crystallite is like orthorhombic, and one was cyclic. But more interestingly, when I was just trying to see the crystal, and I just tried what you can say, by mistakenly or just while separating the crystal, I observed that one crystal is completely bending in the 360-degree way. And
Oh, so
if you release it, it is going like it is showing me the color as well as it is gaining the original shape. If you bend it, it is 360-degree bend. Then if you release it, it is showing me color for a fraction of second, and again it is coming straight. And the another diastereomeric crystal is brittle. If you try to disturb it, it will break. And from there, digging down approach started. So what is this? From there, I understood that, okay, this kind of material, this is the crystal itself bending, is very new. Then what could be the application? From there, I again dig it down into the crystal engineering part. And then I understood that whatever the crystal which actually crystallizes in P2-1 fashion, they are piezoelectric.
wow,
Then
wonderful,
again,
wonderful.
further, then what we can do extra, because now the thing is, I am not like me and my sir is not in this crystal engineering or this piezoelectric part, right? So we have to dig the more and more deeper inside it. And from there, we have developed the completely different approach. Now,
I
in my
must,
thesis, both will go. So if you dig it down sometimes, it gives you completely different direction.
wonderful story, Monica, and I'm sure we should all clap for her. This is a fantastic detour. Sometimes we say detour is bad in science, but this detour is so exciting. It is so far removed from your original work that you were doing. But I'm happy that your guide also permitted you to go into that direction. Many times the professors like us may become restrictive and may prevent a student getting diffused. But this area you diffuse.
No, sir, I agree. In my case as well, initially this happened. Initially this happened that, okay, this is not our area, but as you stick on and if you are really sure that such kind of area is not has been explored by anything, then at one point of time you can really convince your guide.
Wonderful. Monica, I must say, both of us are deeply inspired and impressed by your persistence. And I would only say now, to challenge you further, that the first part of your work where you were synthesizing for diabetes, now we have many leads for diabetes from Kashmir, Sikkim, and Nagaland. We could send you some. You can look at them. And then if you find little time, we don't want to distract you from your thesis work, because that is first duty that you have. But if in a group of students, some juniors, some seniors, some of your class fellows, some from IICT, you make a group. And if you can, please switch off. What is? नाम कौन बोल रहे हैं? आप एक मिनट. Please switch off your mic. Switch off your mic. So it will be nice if you make a group from IICT and NCL and take up whichever you may do group for diabetes or anything else that you're interested in. But if you tell us that I'm looking for a plant which has this, or this characteristic, then we will send you only that kind. So you specify the conditions that you wish to emphasize, and we will then select from our database. Anamika would be very happy to send you some examples. And if you approve, then we will also send you the samples for that. So you don't have to worry about it. And if you find something meaningful, we'll arrange a visit to the community in Kashmir or Nagaland or Sikkim. That's a bonus.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Anyways, I am registered in IIIM Jammu only, because my
wonderful.
guide is
That's good. So then anyway you have to go to Jammu. So from
but
Jammu
then
to Srinagar,
the thing is, I am in synthesis. Like whatever I will synthesize, I have made the analogs of that natural product, and we have given it in the different groups for the biological testing.
No, I understood. I understand. But I'm saying that if you make a group, interdisciplinary group, which can at least experiment with some compound which are not available in synthetic form, maybe then, particularly if the plants are rare. Nalika, those plants which are rare, but which have extremely useful compound, she can work on them, because those plants we don't want to use in
Okay.
natural form. So I
Sir,
think
we
that
have it in from Gurez, the
so
one
let us
that increases oxygen in not sea buckthorn, but another one. You find it in very small quantity because it's an endangered plant. So we did not disclose it
so
to
we can
anybody.
only send you for finding the compound and then synthesize it, because we will never be able to use natural available compound. It's natural available plant. It is so rare.
Yeah, absolutely right. That we can definitely do.
Yeah.
And
Good.
my guide will be more than happy if we get, because
Wonderful. Wonderful.
usually we have like we target for the medicinally important compound, which usually we cannot isolate in the good amounts.
So this
So
is the
we
problem, that
develop the
by definition this plant is not available in good quantity, and therefore the reason why we will request you to synthesize.
yeah, surely, sir. If you have then such kind of compound with the good activity, then definitely you can share it with us. I will share with my guide. So whichever potential compound, definitely we can develop the synthetic route for it.
Okay, now I will tell you about 3 brief stories. They are long stories, but this book is
Are we having a break now?
5 minutes maybe, but I don't want anybody to go away. So
Then you continue, sir. If people are going away, then
what do you say? We can give 3-4 minutes just to stretch yourself. Don't go away. Don't go away. Just stretch yourself 3-4 minutes. So it is 6:41, maybe 6:45. We will meet again. All right. A quick break, short break,
Okay, sir.
very short. A fitness break. Mic is on. Your mic is on. Everybody is listening to your conversation. Everybody, Ramesh, your conversation is being heard by everybody.
मैंने मेरी तरफ से तो 100% अब खुद को रिग्रेट करती थी पता है और मुझे है ना यार ये म्यूट है ना मतलब
All right, so I will tell you 3 case studies, and I'll begin with one that is very famous, and I had a small connection, which I'll tell you. So Dr. Pushpan Gadan, who was former director of NBRI and also Tropical Botanical Research Institute in Kerala, he also was the coordinational coordinator of the All India Research Project on ethnobotany. Very eminent botanist and eminent scholar who did a lot of work with communities and people's knowledge and so on. So there's a famous discovery that he made when he, along with his colleague from the Tropical Botanical Research Institute, they were both walking in a Kani tribe region in the forest around about 60 kilometers away from Thiruvananthapuram. And there was a guide, Malana Kani, apart from, and there were more people who were also walking with them. After walking for about...
Hello, sir.
Hello?
Can you please do slideshow?
Oh, sorry.
Because it is
Okay.
not visible.
No, I can see that. Just give me 1 minute. Is it okay? Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this book or this study is available for free download. I mentioned the download on the chat. And there are 3 case studies given in this volume, one of which is I'm describing now, Dr. Pushpan Gadan's experience. So he was walking in the forest in the Kani tribe region, about 60 kilometers away. There is a dam, and beyond the dam, there is a forest in which Kani tribe people live. And this, he was getting tired. Shashi Shekharan was along with him. And they were both getting tired after some time, but these tribal who were walking with them didn't get tired, and they were chewing some leaves. So he asked them, "What are you chewing? And what does it, why are you chewing it?" They mentioned it is Arogyapacha leaf. It grows in the shady condition on a slopey soil very easily, and it gives us energy. So they also tried to chew it, and it gives instant boost of energy. And they did research on it, and a drug was developed called a Jeevani. It is a non-steroidal energy boosting drug, so much so that a famous American athletics journal magazine printed this photo of this product on their front page, on the cover page. And how was it developed? It was developed with the Dr. Warrior's Institute, Arabadeshala, and TBGRI together. And there was about 50% royalty was go to the institute, and 50% to the scientist. Now, when he developed this, he came to me and he said, "Professor, we feel that this knowledge came from tribal, so we should do something for them. What would be the best way of doing it?" So I suggested, "Why don't you make a trust fund?" And that he accepted the advice, and he created a trust fund in which Mallana tribe, Kani, and another tribe, Kani, both they were also member, and they could not ask institute, please switch off, please switch off, please switch off. They could not ask the institute to share, but they put entire share of theirs. Let's say 25 lakh. If they were to 50 lakh as the royalty, as the signing fee and royalty, then 25%, 50% of it, that is their share, was entirely given to this trust, and with small amount of honorarium to these tribal more who had given initial information, but it was a committee knowledge. Later on, of course, forest department created some problem and all that. I will not get into that, but it was an example of a public sector institution creating a model of benefit sharing, which I had the opportunity to study and write about. The second example is of Pamela Ronald. She was a pathologist at that time in Cornell University. Later, she went to University of California, Davis. Please cooperate. Please switch off your mic. So the knowledge was originally collected from the Bela tribe, originally living in Timbuktu region, but who used to migrate to the irrigated region irrigated paddy region as a worker. And this knowledge emerged in a very interesting manner. So Oryza longus staminata, one of the wild rice, was found in the watercourses, and farmers would control it as a weed. So farmers had no knowledge of this weed, a utility of this. They wanted to remove it. They used weedicide. And the Bela tribe people from Timbuktu would use it because they found that even the seeds of this plant, as you know, most wild crops are shattering type. Nature never wanted kernel to stay longer on the plant. They will burst open and the seed will be dispersed. So that was the way nature ensured its reproduction. So this will burst open in the swampy areas, and these people, extremely poor people from Timbuktu who were living in this region, were collected. So we went and studied the whole chain, and we found that these laborers actually were the custodian of knowledge. And there was a song in which it was mentioned that the birds also ate this rice, and nothing affected it. There was no disease or pest on this plant. So Oryza longus staminata was brought from Mali to India, Research Center Rices Institute. From here, it went to Philippines. Dr. Kush did work on it. And a gene was isolated for blast tolerance, XA21, blight tolerance. And then this gene was cloned by Pamela Ronald in Cornell. Later, she went to UC Davis. And she suggested that and then she licensed it to a company, Monsanto, under 3-year license. So please understand that so far what we have seen is that a knowledge of poor people in Mali generated the lead, so to say, among the scientists to look at this wild rice and use it in the crossing program. Instead of using it in the crossing program, they isolated a gene from it, XA21, cloned it, and then made it available to developing countries free of cost, trained their scientists, and she suggested that a fund be created in UC Davis called as Genetic Resource Recognition Fund, GRRF. The university, I met the Vice Chancellor. I went to Mali, went to UC Davis, talked to the Vice Chancellor. They didn't want to share any part from their income. But they said the scientists are free to share their part. Just same story as Dr. Pushpangadan's. But somehow the company returned the gene after 3 years, did not go for its commercial utilization because they felt that scientists was anyway giving it privately, openly to the developing countries. So it was not taken forward, but it was an idea where the public spirited scientists like Pamela Ronald or Pushpangadan were trying to generate benefit for the community. The third case is of Nigeria, and that's very interesting. I'll tell you 2 stories which where I connected with this. So Maurice Iwu, a famous ethnobotanist from Nigeria, was having a company which he did develop drugs based on the traditional knowledge, and he was a member of a team. There were 5 such teams, which were financed by National Science Foundation and USAID under a program called as Drug Discovery for Biodiversity Conservation through Drug Discovery, where an American institute and a Third World Institute worked together to develop a product. So and I was a member of the evaluation team for this project. So when we were asking questions to various teams, I asked Maurice, I said, did it ever happen that you asked some knowledge from the healer and you tested in the lab and it didn't work? He said, yes. We tried once, we tried twice, we tried 3 times, it will not work. He was in Walter Reed Army Medical Research Institute in Maryland. So I said, then what happened? So he said, finally we went to the healer. Healer got tired of our questions. He said, how do you give? We said, we give it in the blood. He said, no, I don't give it in the blood, I give orally. Go and give it orally. Now, there was obviously some chemistry in the gut which took place between this herb and its extract with the acids and enzymes present in the gut, which caused its effect to be realized when it was given to blood. In the blood, it did not show effect. So it is not only how the knowledge is used, I mean, how the knowledge is recorded, but also the practice of this knowledge should be also carefully recorded. And of course, when we went to Nigeria to talk to these healers, one of the lady mentioned, look, I don't care about benefits. I would like my name to be there on the bottle of the drug so that people know that I made this contribution to their well-being. So there are different people who look for different kinds of benefits. But this was a study, probably one of the first studies of this kind, because there were not too many models of benefit sharing. Later on, of course, Honeybee Network, Srishti and Gyan have developed many of these models, and they're taking it forward. But it was important to know that scientists have paid attention to this source of knowledge 20 years ago when I studied it, though they had done it 25 years ago. And it is still is relevant, as some of you mentioned just now. So let us look at another example, and this is very interesting. We were in Anantnag, and we found this wall. Did I share that before? Did I show this wall?
No, sir.
No,
sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. All right. So as you can see, there is no mark on it. There is no black mark on this wall. Isn't it? Completely clean. Now, if you look at your campus walls, you will find some black smudges, which is because of rust. When organic matter goes and it attracts the rust, when they explode, the black powder, rust kind of powder, which comes from the bacteria, will make a black patch. This wall had no patch. So we were very keen to know, is it new house? So we went inside. It was a Weaver's 30-year-old house. We said, have you painted it? He said, no, it is just as it was 30 years ago. So what have you done? Nothing, sir. No, then why? How did you build the wall? That it seemed to have a natural antimicrobial surface, open air. You know that we use titanium dioxide nanoparticles and mix it with the paint for making a clean room in our lab. Here it was naturally clean. He said, no, I didn't do much. I just took clay and pounded it with jute fiber and perhaps little seed. And those of you who will do research on jute fiber and seed will find out it has very strong antibacterial properties. Now, these people discovered a material which can, in open air, remain antimicrobial. Isn't it a great discovery? Now, if some of you are interested, our team could get you a scrape of its wall and do some research and find out how come that this wall has not attracted any bacterial or fungal patch in last 30 years. And if it can generate a new material, then you will realize that, my goodness, this could be a new discovery. And they make these structures, even in our own office, campuses and labs, much safer. So this is another example where research needs to be done to build bridges between the two systems of knowledge. Another interesting example from Bhutan, from Sikkim. And in Sikkim, there are prayer flags. Buddhists put some prayer flags, and they have to be put at, there are two conditions where flags are put. One, it should see the water somewhere. So there must be a downstream which this flag face. And second, they should flutter. There must be a wind, moving wind in this direction. So if you want to install windmills, you can easily do that near these flags, and they will always work more or less. So that was a good thought, that they have almost invariably, without knowing clearly, unwittingly, they have mapped wind corridors while putting these flags. And therefore, the task of wind energy, harnessing wind energy, could become easier. This is a product that our lab had developed and licensed to a company. There were 6 communities from different parts of Gujarat who gave a knowledge which was pooled from Panchmahal, Sabarkantha, Dang, Mehsana, Patan, Bhavnagar. Now, the innovation was in pooling these traditional knowledge. So many times when you take traditional knowledge for the same problem, eczema in this case, but from different communities, your skill lies in combining them in a manner that they become more productive. Individually, none of them may be so effective as the formulation is. That's why it was licensed to a company, Troika Pharmaceutical, and company was good enough to invite them when these products were launched. And these communities, representatives, for 20 years, they will continue to get money orders from us for little royalty that company gives. Not very much, but whatever it gives, that royalty is shared with the 6 communities every year, 7 communities every year. There are many other products that have been developed for similar kind. One more point that I want to mention is that one of the products that we made earlier under the Honeybee network, we published the photograph of the innovator on the label for branding. We didn't want to put a label photo of a hero, heroine, or whatever. We thought that apart from the name, we will also put photograph. And that will be used to give a point that if you go to the market and look at different products, you will hardly ever find a product where innovator's name is mentioned, much less innovator's photo is mentioned. And this is an experiment that we did. Matrix Bioscience in Hyderabad was licensed this pesticide for leaf curl disease based on the knowledge of Popat Bhai, Rupa Bhai, Timbucha. Now, this is another interesting example. As you know, some of you know that Azarita from neem is very unstable. Photo in light, it degrades very fast. So UV exposure was given, and at different time, 20 minutes, it degrades very highly. But there was a particular compound which was mixed with neem leaf, and it made it storage stable. Now, that is the power of sometimes some of the traditional knowledge. If given proper experiment, it can overcome one of the major weaknesses of the neem extract and make it stable. This is a case where we filed a patent in US, and you will be happy to know that this patent was opposed by none other than TKDL, Traditional Knowledge Digital Library of CSIR and Ayush. And of course, we could manage. I mean, in the sense that our reply could satisfy the patent office in US that the claim that we made was original. Now, interestingly, this was traditional knowledge. Indian Patent Act does not allow a patent traditional knowledge to be patented. But we did not present it as traditional knowledge. We presented it as an innovation by the committees because this knowledge was never published. It was not a prior art. So there was no, and it was not a committee practice, it was a particular person's practice. So and there was improvement that he had done, so it became an innovation. And it was shown to be even those organisms which were, please switch off. Even those cultures which were resistant to all these antibiotics mentioned in the bottom, this extract was showing activity against those cultures which were resistant to all the antibiotics mentioned here. It's a very effective typhoid drug. There are various examples of other compounds which have come out of traditional knowledge. So my cataract, this was a lady we met in our Champaran Shodh Yatra. Weed control in Mali through salt. This is another example from Guinea. So I'm not saying that traditional knowledge of India only is of relevance. What I'm trying to say is similar knowledge in other parts of the world has no less importance. And we should look at this without a parochial or nationalistic feeling that only we have this knowledge. No, everywhere in the world, such knowledge is found, and we need to study that carefully. So, for example, it was found that 10% solution of salt was affected in drying up of the infected cumin clusters where the plants were infected. Now, way back in '94, this was published in Honeybee newsletter. Those of you who are interested, we can mail to you in the Anamika, can you get it mailed tomorrow? Some issues of Honeybee, some old, some new PDF, so that they can see that. Tomorrow I'm in Nias at Bangalore, so I would request her. This is very interesting, where knowledge systems are getting blended, which we discuss tomorrow. Do you know this person who's standing there? Anybody knows? Blue shirt. So one common friend told me that Cameroon wanted to visit us, James Cameroon. We had an exhibition, Rashtrapati Bhavan. I didn't know who James Cameroon was. So they said, oh, you know, producer of Titanic. I said, all right, I have seen the Titanic film. That's interesting. So bring him over. And he spent quite a few hours in looking at different innovations. He's a very smart person so far as science and technology is concerned. And this was a biomass gasifier made by Rasing Daya, standing here. And it uses different kinds of filters, and James was giving his ideas as to how can efficiency be improved with some of the technology that he was aware of and we were not. So now there are some challenges, and I will mention them one by one, and I would like to hear from you, how do we handle these challenges? One of the challenges is that many times communities which are dependent on natural resources and traditional knowledge suffer a great deal because of lack of infrastructure and lack of other opportunities. The state and market are unable to track their problems. Civil society or public spirited scientists like you may sometimes have to pay attention to this problem and solve them. Just now when Namika was sharing her story, one of you mentioned that these plants are found in Jharkhand also. Possible. Now, opportunity for tribal in Jharkhand should also be generated. Why not? And maybe that the plant found this in the variety found in Jharkhand, or so this plant may be more effective than the one found in Kashmir. We don't know. Maybe less effective or more effective because of soil, because of water. So how do we track the potential of community knowledge in different regions? Where do please switch off. Are you going to ask a question, comment, make a comment? Then you please speak loudly. The second question is, of course, in situ value addition. How do we add value among the communities? So in Sikkim, Namika has, her team has developed a dryer. In Nagaland, they're also trying to do some processing. Kashmir also, they're trying to do some processing. So can we ensure that this country doesn't only export raw material, but also tries to reduce the raw material export and value addition? China has done it. 1 in 5 Americans has used Chinese medicine, but not so about Ayurvedic or our herbal medicine. So there's a great deal of asymmetry that exists in the world about our knowledge-based products, traditional knowledge-based products. Like that. Yes. How do we ensure that people-to-people sharing of knowledge takes place? Now, what happens is many times, and this is a very serious risk, which our team will also have to ensure that we don't go through the same problem. Products made by communities in one part of the country may be available to urban people, but may not be available to other communities at low cost without fancy packaging in other parts of the country. So let us say we develop this product from this balm from Kashmir, and let us say in Nagaland, there are also people who will be facing pain problem. Maybe they don't have a good enough drug. Can this be made available at very low cost to people in Nagaland? So this is also a challenge. How do we develop horizontal markets so that products from one community go to other communities? That can be a very good benefit sharing. So while Nagaland had some 30 kinds of rajma, which is a very interesting possibility of developing variety of rajma-based dishes, because some of them may be good for a certain kind of product and others may be for other kind of product. So much diversity is not found in any part that we are aware of. And Anamika may have a report. Do you have a report, Anamika, readily available, which showed that 5 of them had more iron content and some of them zinc content than any known pulse in the country? Now look at this way. Anamika, are you there? Maybe she's not there. So I'll show it to you tomorrow. So this was a very interesting possibility that if you have high iron content rajma, and 60% women are anemic, by eating this rajma, you may get sufficient iron content, maybe. That's a great possibility. So can we therefore think of developing horizontal markets and characterize them for their unique properties? That is remaining to be done properly, not yet done enough. How do we source ideas at mass level? So you have given many ideas, about 300, 400 ideas. Some of, I would say at least 10 or 15% of these ideas I would like you to comment on. Many of you, I would like to hear from you as to what potential do you see in these ideas. But we can use railways, we can use post offices, we can give challenge award for developing value addition. We can even use Manrega program, 10 days out of the 100 days of job. They can do mapping of the traditional knowledge. So there are different ways in which this can be done. I'll stop here and hope that you can share your comments on whichever practice you found in the sheet interesting and what you think should be done further. Any one of you. Any one of you can pick up anything from the list. And I would like that some of you should present tomorrow the research potential of some of the leads. I would like all of you to study this sheet tonight and present tomorrow what research potential you see. I gave you example of mango leaf, how mango leaf was used as a dental cleaning means. Can we make a toothbrush from mango leaf? I have never seen anyone using that. So like that, there could be something which you can see potential of. And then maybe when you make your synopsis for projects, some of these ideas can be incorporated in your synopsis. So who would like to mention? We have 15 minutes, 18 minutes. Anyone?
Sir, can I clarify one thing, sir?
Go ahead.
As I think you just mentioned, tomorrow we have class, but the original plan which was shared, it was showed 23rd November, then 7th December is the class, sir.
It doesn't have on 24th and 25th?
Yes, sir. Session 5 is today. Session 6 is on 7th December, if I am seeing it correctly.
Just a minute. Oh my God.
Yes, sir. Next class is scheduled on 7th December.
You are right. I moved up.
Tomorrow you have Bangalore.
Huh?
Tomorrow you have
Yes,
class
sir.
in
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow we have, no?
7th December is the.
Tomorrow we have.
No, sir.
No, sir.
So you are saying next class is on December 7.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God. I was going to Bangalore. I changed my flight 3 times a day today just to be able to. All right, another matter. Good that you corrected me. My calendar, you are right. My outline says what you are saying, but my calendar was probably obsolete. I'm sorry about that. But then in that case, you have more time to prepare for the next 2 sessions. The session 6, that is on December 7, is on blending of formal and informal science. And I would like this session to have good presentations by you, either alone or in group, where you will show some examples where the knowledge from the committees has the potential to be blended, and you will present a pathway of how this can be blended. If any one of you needs example from our database, just mention it to Anamika and she would share with you some examples from our region. If you remember, I mentioned this example before and I would mention it again, that corn silk tea is a very good source of solution for prostate problem and also cardiac and other thing. Now, corn silk is thrown away, the fiber, the hair-like thing that you find in the cob, around the cob. When you peel it, you have these hair-like, which are stamens and stigma and style. And these are thrown away, but these are very useful for tea, for elderly people. So can you take some examples of the wasted biomass or abundantly available biomass, which can be blended with the contemporary science and develop into modern products? So that would be very useful if you make presentation on 6th, on December 7, and then December 8, we have the open innovation. So we will discuss a lot of insights about what we have learned from open innovation. All our databases, as you know, are open source, which have been shared with you, all of them. And we believe strongly in that. But maybe some of you also have shared your innovation, or your lab has shared some innovations in open source. That means anybody can use that. Anybody can develop a small enterprise around that. If such examples exist, we will be very happy to hear about open innovation. That is the class on December 8. And December 9, we have session on learning from nature not just biomimicry, that is one aspect of it where we would like to have your, but also other forms from where we can learn from nature, from materials, from structures, from geoclimatic conditions or other matters, where from nature can teach us something very valuable about how problems can be solved by using analog from nature. So any comment on the knowledge that has been shared in the sheets? Any one of you want to mention on that? So, or you can mention about your own submission. If you have submitted something which seems to you quite different, why don't you mention that example and share with the class whatever you want to talk about? I picked up a few examples, but you may like to share more. Some of you have mentioned general points, which I would wish to be changed by some specific bits of knowledge. Yeah, at least this gives an excuse for you to talk to your grandparents or granduncles or your neighbors and get something from them, or even your lab attendants or the staff in your lab. Yes, Aarti, do you want to share something? Aarti? Or anybody else for that matter? Please go ahead. You can take your own example that you have documented. Why are you hesitating?
Sir, one example I have.
Yes, go ahead. Deepak.
Whenever we feel some numbness in our feet or our hand or arms,
yes,
you know, हाथ सो गया या कुछ हो गया. My mother used to say that you put your saliva on that, rub it, and it will become okay.
I see. That's very interesting. I've never heard it before. Anybody hypothesizes, or can you search quickly? Because saliva has amylase, alpha amylase and beta amylase, but it also has some other enzymes. So what will...
This my mother has been telling me for the last 40 years. I'm doing that every time.
but you have not cared to take the next step. How saliva helps in numbness of limbs. Let me see if there is something we can find from the literature. How limb numbness. So,
sir, instead of saliva, if suppose you are having a cold water also or normal water also, it will work the same way.
No, that's interesting. Water will make the blood circulation go faster, maybe.
Yes, exactly. That's the way, sir.
Yes. Any other thought? Any other thought? What would saliva do to remove numbness?
So maybe it could stimulate the cold receptors because the water is evaporating from the hand.
No, but saliva would be increasing the evaporative rate, because generally saliva is not saline, is it?
Then sir,
no,
later
sir, just the vaporization.
Actually, a couple of years back, I was thinking on the other angle also. That it is not the saliva more, it is actually the rubbing.
No, rubbing does. But what is there in saliva which will, I'm not able to find anything quickly, but it will be interesting to see the compound in saliva and then see if any one of those compound or enzymes have any property. So Chat GPT doesn't agree with our submission. It has found nothing in saliva so far, but Chat GPT we can forgive for her ignorance.
I will tell my mother that even the idea or the trick what she knows, even Professor Anil Gupta doesn't know. So
not only doesn't know, it doesn't know. You should mention to her what is her name, kindly name, respected mother's name.
Sangeeta Lekhi.
एक काम करना दीपक के जो आप लोगों ने जो लिखा है ना, वहां अपनी मदर या फादर या ग्रैंडमदर का नाम भी लिखो साथ में. Many of you have said, I learned from my grandmother, I learned from my father, but you not put their name. They have identity, they are known, they have distinctive identity of their own. My request is, please update the spreadsheet and mention the name of your parents or grandparents from whom you have learned. That is number one. Number two, ask her what she thinks could be the explanation. She may have her own theory of it. No
Right, sir.
harm in asking her theory. It might
Right.
look unscientific to you, but maybe it will provide some clue which we are not able to find just now.
Right.
So that's very interesting, Deepak. Anybody else wants to share something of that kind? Anybody? Shri, Rahul, Vinay? हाँ पिंकी बोलिए. आवाज नहीं आ रही आपकी
It
पिंकी.
contains thromboplastin.
हाँ?
It contains thromboplastin.
Thromboplastin. My goodness. So now we know the science. अरे दीपक, आपकी मदर तो साइंटिस्ट है यार. अरे थ्रोम्बोप्लास्टिन है उसके अंदर. उनको कैसे पता चल गया भगवान जानता है, लेकिन अब तो साइंस का सपोर्ट मिल गया हमको. So we know that Pinky, you are right. Cold milk is a very well known and given advice to us कि कभी गैस एसिडिटी हो तो ठंडा दूध पी लेना चाहिए. बर्फ का हो तो और भी अच्छा है. I agree with you 100%. क्या करता है ये बैक्टीरिया को जो एसिडिटी पैदा कर रहे हैं, क्या करता होगा ठंडा दूध? You know, Pinky, why our knowledge system is not getting the respect it deserves? Just now, what Shri, you mentioned or Subhashri mentioned? Subhashri mentioned, no? Thromboplastin. So it is possible that we have not given scientific attention to it, our knowledge system, and therefore we have lost respect for it. हाँ Subhashri, so thromboplastin का function क्या होता है? What does
Sir,
it do?
it helps in blood coagulation.
It helps in blood coagulation.
Yes, sir. Clotting factor, coagulation factor or clotting factor.
तो ये कैसे हेल्प करेगा इसके अंदर हमको? इसमें यू आर राइट कि जब कोई चोट लग जाती है, कुछ लग जाती है, तो सलाइवा से हम चाट लेते हैं उसको तो ठीक हो जाता है. वो तो बात सही है. दैट वी हैव इन कॉमन प्रैक्टिस सीन. बट नमनेस में क्या करेगा ये? I mean, does it stop the circulation or increase the circulation?
Sir, actually, when I'm searching through the internet, I found that some scientists have isolated a chemical compound that is opiorphin, which is a better painkiller compared to morphine. So
From
maybe
what has
that
to be identified?
Opiorphin.
नहीं, किसमें से निकाला है?
Saliva से, human saliva.
Oh, so maybe there are some combination of the things that this has which may cause this effect. It reduces the tingling feeling that is there because maybe the tingling comes from circulation getting stopped, and it does. Devarajan, I will not dispute what you are saying, but I'm saying if we can find some scientific practices, then it is not worth ignoring it. That's all. Elizabeth has mentioned about, yes, you are right. I didn't tell, did I tell you about my experience at the last class? Did I mention about the Kotiam experience of 3 milk as a viral control? I think I mentioned. So you are right that breast milk has been used for eye sty in the eye, and I experienced in my ear. A lady had put 1959, 60 when I was in Kanpur, young kid. She had put a breast milk. So that's important, very important. But you can see the fact that how much value can be added. If at least you can generate hypotheses, I'm not saying you can add value in 1 class or 2 class or 1 week, but you can generate hypotheses. So if you can present the possible reason why something works or something does not work, something may be superstition, we will ignore it. That wherever you see some potential, just now a colleague mentioned about guava leaf extract. Guava leaf extract is used. I have taken tea for guava leaf. Anamika, was it used in one of your product, tea, guava leaf? It also helps in diabetes, guava leaf extract, just like mango leaf. So
we thinking of using wild fig leaves.
Huh?
That has wild fig leaves that has been
You're using,
imported from
thinking of using?
Nagaland. using wild
Okay,
fika
I'm not able to
leaf.
hear.
Wild
So
fig.
I would request you all to look at this sheet and copy with the name of the person who has given it. What is that? I forgot this mention. Which, yes, jamun is well known. I take jamun juice. No, not that I suffer from any ailment, but it is said to help in weight loss also, Karela and jamun. And I'm trying to lose some weight. So, Shobana, that your point is valid, that if heat is produced, then it will improve circulation. We were only trying to see whether saliva helps in better dissipation of heat, so that it makes it faster. That's all we need to see. Whether saliva has anything which can help in dissipating of heat, then what you are saying can be validated. But it is yes, curcumin is well known. Pomegranate is useful also for, the tea of pomegranate skin is very useful, but it also helps digestion, very good. The kernel of mango is used for digestion. The roasted kernel of mango seed, well known, but very useful. I take it every day in the soup. So these are things that, only thing I'm requesting you is that if you can make a sheet with your names, each one of you can add, and then we can make a combined spreadsheet about the common knowledge, or at least the practices which you think may have scientific value. And we circulate it to the entire class. Some of you might do some projects on them. You can share it with your juniors also. And guava bark to treat diarrhea, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Our mouth ulcer I knew, but not the date seed powder for calcium. That again is very interesting. People make coffee out of date seeds, but it is rich source of calcium, is very interesting. Now, if you can put down these things, I will request you, all of you, to record it somewhere, so that, can we save the chat? Namika, I'm trying to find out the button. Chat. And we need to save it. Just a minute. Save chat. Okay. So flaxseed is well known again. Papaya, yes, you are right, is very good. Now my question is, we divide it in two parts. One which is very common knowledge, and we can sort of downplay that. Like papaya for digestion is very common knowledge, but pomegranate peel for digestion is not that common. Otherwise, people would not throw it away as they do today. So if Prem, what you're saying, that is very well known again, that sometimes the lack of water may cause the hiccups, and therefore that makes a lot of sense to drink water. That is a very useful thing. So my suggestion is that what you're getting warmed up to this issue now, but can you, before the next class, pick up, it's up to you whether you want to make an individual presentation or group presentation, but please do make presentation about possible hypotheses that you have. Lady's finger, yes, my wife tried that also. Soaking lady's finger in the night, overnight, and using that water in the morning. She practiced it, and it helped her a great deal. Mango leaf, lady's finger, guava leaf, all the three were used, and they're very useful. So I hope that you will bring some good presentations to the next class. You have enough time between now and then, and do some review. Talk to more elders if you can, and try to get their hypothesis also. Deepak, try to get your mother's hypothesis also, then we will see what science says. Because
Right,
it
sir.
is not that people should be, elderly people have not just knowledge, but they also have a clue about why they are doing it. Sometimes they may be doing right thing for wrong reason. And I'll give example of that next time. So thank you so much. I hope you will really do something useful in the next class. Any one of you needs some examples from our research in Kashmir, Sikkim, or Nagaland, please write to anamika@gian.org, GIAN.org. Just write to her and she will send you examples Those of you who need samples also write to her. She will send you samples because she has an ongoing project there, which she's coordinating. So papaya leaves boil in water use. That is true during chikungunya. A lot of people have used papaya leaf extract, and it is well published. ICMR has some studies on that. It shows that it increases the WBC quite fast. So in fact, it is recommended by scientists also now. So thank you so much. Good luck, and see you on 6th.
7th December.
Sorry, 7th December, not 7th. Again, I'm getting that. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye,
Bye.
sir. Thank you so much.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Notes on.